Hello everyone. This is the Ubuntu community Q&A, and if you joined us through ubuntuonair.com, there's a chat widget below the video where you can enter your favorite nickname, and then you can join the conversation, ask all the questions you have, and yeah, join the conversation. So if you have questions, make sure you prefix them with question in capital letters, so we can more easily pick them up. But first of all, I'm going to introduce the other two guys here with Alan Pope and Michael Vogt, good friend of mine, and a long-time Ubuntu hippie. He's going to talk about the Ubuntu release, apt, click, all the stuff that's happening right now. But I think, first of all, we had some announcements. Is that right, Ellen?
Did we?
Oh, no. So, should probably excuse us, like we're all equally jet-lagged. We just came back from a sprint, so if we don't make sense today, that's probably why. We also quickly debated if we were going to have this hangout in German, but Alan protested. He didn't like the idea.
Yeah, I wanted it in Esperanto, but you guys refused to comply with that, so
Makes sense. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. So, do we want to have, as we have previously, have the first half hour with our guest answering questions and stuff, and then we'll do our stuff afterwards?
Sure, can do that as well.
Awesome.
So, Michael, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Daniel. I'm a little bit tired, just as everybody, because we are in jet lag land right now, not quite in Germany yet.
Right. What did you get to do at the sprint? So we were in Washington last week, and what did you do there?
Right. Drinking tea for a start. I mean, that was pretty important to me. But also I worked on Click mainly, and a bit of apt work, but a lot of Click work. We are expanding Click in some interesting areas. So as you probably know, like Click is our technology to deliver applications on the phone, and it works really well because it has some really nice properties, like you can do atomic updates, and when combined with the system image technology that we also use on the phone, then it's a really powerful mechanism, because essentially it means you can update your applications atomically, you can update your base, and that's really awesome. And we do want to expand this technology and use it in more areas. So we were working on making it more accessible on a server platform as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, it looks like you've been stuck in the problems of delivering software for the last couple of years. So we're using apt on the desktop, on the server, everywhere right now. Why did we invent something new? What's different?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Since basically forever I work on delivering software. When I joined Ubuntu in 2004, I was working on Synaptic, and then all sorts of tools to make it easier for users to get software. And one fundamental limitation that we currently have in the deb package world is that maintainer scripts make it impossible to roll back a package, like in a general case at least. Like it probably works in most cases, but because when a deb package gets updated or upgraded, then a maintainer script runs, which means that it's essentially a shell script or a Perl script, which can alter the system state in any way, So it is programmatically impossible to revert this operation. And that's, of course, really bad if you have a device like a phone where you can't easily debug, and where it's really a consumer device that nobody should ever have to debug. I mean, it needs to be super robust. And this is why we came up with Click. The other big advantage of Click is that we can use app armor confinement. So a Click application is much more secure in a lot of ways because it cannot easily, well, it cannot, period, break out of its confinement.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So if I understand it correctly, you could probably say that the usual packages we had that make sense for the system, where we want things to be tightly integrated and where we need to tweak things with maintainer scripts. But for general apps, for software that comes in that we can't review for every single update, or we don't want to, given that we want millions and millions of packages of apps for the phone. That's why we have things there, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, this is a good summary. Like, deb packages are really wonderful to build an operating system, and we are not going to take deb packages away. I mean, we use them to build our system images. We use them to build our systems. But there are use cases where, like you described, like when we want to have rapid application updates automatically processed without any review from a human at all. Like, this is where Click shines and where it's great. Like, just imagine a world where the day that OpenOffice comes out, or your favorite game, you get an update right away. There is no, like, it's basically decoupling between the operating system and the applications. And I mean, this is what all mobile platforms do now, and this is, I think, where we want to be as well.
Is it also true that with Click you can have multiple different versions of the same application installed and potentially have different users having different versions of the same application on the same device?
Yes, that's possible. You can register multiple versions, which is a nice feature as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, so here's one question around Click already. Michael Hall asks, with Colin changing focus, I'd imagine you could use more help with Click development. Where can people go to learn about how to get involved?
That's a good question. I mean, we don't have a separate IRC channel, for example. Ubuntu Devel is a great place, and talking to me or talking to Colin is probably a good start. We have a well-maintained backlist. I mean, well-maintained in the sense that we triage regularly and we make sure that it's up to date. So there are certainly some low-hanging fruits in there. Generally, I mean, Click is a great code base. It's really easy to get into. Its test coverage is pretty good. There is a Python part and a Vala part, so people who like to do more low-level stuff, they can get their hands dirty with Vala. And Vala is a great language. It's fun. It's almost like, it looks like C, but without all the nastiness of C. And if you like Python better, there is quite a bit of Python code in there as well. I enjoy working on it.
Do you have a roadmap for features that you're planning for Click in the coming months, in the coming releases for world domination, or is it really people have to come and speak to you to find out what's needed?
Yeah. Currently people have to come to me, unfortunately, but that's not really great because obviously, I don't want to be a single point of failure or focus. There is, I guess, it would be a good idea to write down on the Launchpad project page what the next features are that we plan. I mean, we do plan some exciting stuff. So we want to make Click much more self-contained. Wow, is that me? We do want to make Click much more self-contained in the sense that so right now, if you use the phone, if you install a Click application, the Click scope, the mechanism that displays the interesting applications on your phone, it will do a lot of the heavy lifting. It will search the store. It will download packages, and we do want to have Click do more of this because once we expand Click and use it on a non-Unity 8 environment, we need this functionality. So Click will gain acquire support, so you can download stuff. Click will gain repository support, so you can search your repository and check what stuff is available. Basically, it will become much more like what you would expect when you are used to Where we are currently, it's more like dpackage.
Does it make sense for people who run non-Ubuntu distros to be looking at Click and maybe porting it to their distro? I mean non-Ubuntu, non-Debian, as opposed to like distributions or flavors based on Debian and Ubuntu. So, is it interesting for an Arch developer or a Fedora developer to be porting Click, or do you see Click as being something very Ubuntu specific and fitting an Ubuntu niche?
Well, I guess it depends a little bit on what kind of upstream buy-in we get. I don't think anything in Click is Ubuntu specific. It is a relatively simple container to deliver applications. I mean, this is what it comes down to, and I think this is a need we have in Linux in general. Like, there is no standardized way to get an application bundle to your system. I mean, there are various ways that exist, but there is none that everybody agreed on. And I don't know. I would love to see Click being the one. But we will see. I mean, but yeah, by all means, go for it. Port it to different distributions. It should be really simple. I mean, it should essentially be just make install. I mean, I can't think of anything that is Ubuntu specific in it.
Brilliant. Here's a question by Dave Morley. He asks, MVO, is there a plan for Click big packages yet to cover all the architectures? I think that's fat packages probably. And how harder will it be to create them in comparison to the current thin ones?
Right. So I guess where we are standing right now is that we actually can deliver fat packages. Like, we have the mechanism on the phone at least. If you put different architecture bin dirs and architecture library dirs in a Click, it really should work. Building is a bit of a problem right now because our Click build support or our Click cross build support doesn't make it easy. This is certainly an area we need to look into. I don't have any immediate answers here, but yeah, I hope we can improve it in the near future.
So is the goal that a developer would have, I mean, the ultimate goal is the developer would be using the SDK, or maybe not, just using the Click tools in order to, press a button and generate multiple architecture binaries for their application, whether it's ARM, x86, or AMD64, whatever, and that all lands in one Click, and they can just upload that to the store, and then from there on in, the end user devices will figure out which is the right thing to install.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is, I guess, what it comes down to. I think we need to have a bit more of a discussion here. What's the right approach if we want to create one fat Click package that contains all code and duplicates quite a bit of information, or if we want to have multiple ones. But improving this experience, especially for a developer to build, that is certainly something. Build and upload, I should say. That is certainly something we want to do. I should add that cross-building is really well supported using Click shell roots. I mean, you can right now on your AMD64 workstation or i386 workstation, you can build ARM binaries just fine. It's like the Click shell root technology that we are using, and the multi-arch cross-building and all of this makes it really straightforward, and our cross tool chain.
Yeah, and that's what's also wrapped around in the SDK. So SDK users are already making use of that technology.
Exactly. I mean, most developers won't really see the low-level bits of Click, but the SDK handles it all, which is really nice.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Here's another question by Michael Hall. He asked, will there be a wider variety of desktop frameworks for Click, such as frameworks that specify the availability of a Java, JRE, or Python? Do you know anything about that?
So I guess there are two angles to this question. So one is if we will get official, like official in air quotes, support for these frameworks. and I don't really know. But the second angle is that we plan to extend Click in such a way that you can have frameworks as part of a Click package. So you can get basically a JDK from Click as a Click, and then you can build your applications on top of the Click frame, like the Click JDK framework. But this is still work in progress. Like we don't have a working system for this yet.
Would that effectively be adding dependencies back in to Click effectively? So saying that, my application needs the Java framework, then Click goes off and gets the Java framework and installs that, then installs your application, that kind of thing? Or are you saying the framework would already exist on the device, or is assumed to already be on the device and is provided by the system?
Yeah, the later. I mean, we don't want to have dependencies. I mean, one of the benefits of Click is that we don't have this complexity. It's a really simple container, and this is what it's meant to be. A framework, in a sense, is a kind of a dependency. So I mean, but yeah, we do want to make. We do not want to add dependencies, but at the same time, we want to make it easier for people to have this framework layer.
Cool. Yeah, there was one question about system demigration. I'm not sure. Do you know much about it, or shall we send them to Martin or somebody else?
Martin is probably the right person, but I mean, I can say, it's going to happen. It works just fine. I run it on my developer workstation, and it's fine.
Hasn't exploded yet.
My system is still booting. Stuff looks very nice. Like it's very colorful.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no, it has some really nice properties. Like I mean, I don't know. I for one welcome our new systemd overlords.
Of course, that's what you say now, right? Yeah, Michael Vogt works on the foundations team, so the people who take care of all the low-level plumbing. It's also the folks who take care of the release management. And I think you were locked up in the release team room. That was nice to have a sprint where the actual release was being made, so that the people, they basically were in the basement most of the time. We just gave them a box of pizza every now and then, and you were there as well. Like what happens during a release day or the day before? What do you need to do as a release member?
So I wasn't really like one of the hardcore release team members. I mean, all the kudos go to people like Adam Conrad and Colin Watson and more people. And the release room, it is fun. It looks a bit like a war room. I mean, like everybody's very concentrated. It's very like there's a certain amount of I don't know, like everybody's very focused. And of course, like the day before the release, it is basically making sure that all the images work fine. This started way earlier, of course, but I mean, making sure that last-minute regressions or potential issues that were overlooked, or most often it's hardware issues. I mean, like stuff that doesn't work very well on very specific hardware, because obviously, like the closer you get to the release, the more people will test it. So sometimes issues on, say, Radeon hardware show up pretty late, and then there is basically stuff like ensuring that the mirrors are updated, that the torrents are seeded. I mean, this is all tasks. It's really a lot of work. There is a big checklist of things the release team needs to do. And I mean, it works so great. But when you actually see what all the moving parts involved, I mean, it's quite amazing. These guys rock. I mean, they do a wonderful job, and it works so smoothly because they are so professional, not because it's so easy.
+1.
Right.
Right. So now the new release is open. Vivid is open for development. How does that work? Like, what needs to be done to open a new release? What do people do?
Right. So again, there's a big checklist here that what needs to be done, like, open the archive, create a new Vivid pocket, and all of this stuff. But for me personally, I mean, this is when it gets fun again. Like, because a release is great because people have stuff in their hand, but at the same time, like, you are very restricted. Like, you can't upload all the stuff that you want to upload because there's a regression risk if you add new features. Bug fixing is kind of hard because, well, bug fixing is hard. And once the new release is open, like, you can fire away. Like, you can add new features, you can sync the stuff that Debian has done in the last couple of weeks and months. You can package new upstream releases. It's great, and usually stuff breaks. But because we have the proposed system in place currently, and the auto package tests and the QA, like the QA machinery is much better than it used to be. So if you're actually running the unstable release like Vivid right now, then we don't have so much breakage. It is actually quite safe to run. Still, you should have, be warned. Like, it's a development release. Like, stuff may explode in spectacular ways, but yeah, you get fresh stuff every day. And of course, as a developer, we have to deal with integration issues like new versions that may break existing stuff that we need to fix now. But yeah, it's this is what's happening. Oh, sorry.
So that's what people do now. They just upload new stuff, or is there more structured approach to this?
Well, I mean, yeah, I was. There is of course a bit more structure to it. Usually, we kind of like the sprints, like the one we had just now, they are used to coordinate work. Like, we talk about what stuff, like what are the new features we want to have, and we agree on the steps, like on the work items to get there, and yeah, then we execute our plan.
So do you have, as part of that plan, tracking like major changes between one Debian release that we've synced from and the next one? So, for example, System D we've mentioned as a big thing that's changed, but other toolchain things like GCC could change significantly between. And do we have people who are responsible for tracking those things, or do we just like pull a lever and all that stuff comes flooding in from Debian?
Well, I guess it's both. I mean, like, we have excellent people in the team who know about the key areas. I mean, we have Matthias Klose, who knows all about the tool chain plans and changes because he's deeply involved. We have people on the systemd team, who keep a close eye, and people like who watch what Debian is doing and try to coordinate here. So it's not like we open the floodgates and suddenly stuff comes and we don't know what. No, and generally, I mean, we try to to have a good relationship with Debian by contributing back fixes, by sometimes trying out stuff that in our development release, like right now, for example, Debian is frozen and they are approaching a release. So some of the features that are not appropriate for Debian may well be appropriate for our unstable release. So as an example, like, we will probably merge the new apt in Vivid, which is an ABI change and has quite a few new features. And this is probably too much of a change for Debian, although I would love to have it in Debian. But we can take it in Ubuntu, and this will of course benefit Debian again because we discover the issues, we fix the bugs. I mean, it's a win-win situation.
That counters a popular misconception that we just pull in everything from Debian and we take, we're always following Debian and we're always behind Debian. And you're
Right.
saying that in some cases we're ahead of them in certain circumstances if the planets line up and timings of releases line up, then we could be ahead in some ways, and we can contribute that back upstream.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the Debian BTS, for example, like there are user tags for patches we contribute back, and I mean, we look actually quite good. Like we do contribute a lot back. We try to have, like the Python team, for example, they work very closely. Debian and Ubuntu teams work very closely with each other. I mean, I don't know. It seems like there is a bit of a misconception here sometimes that, users complain, but generally, like it seems like it's more like the closer the people are to actually developing the software, the less complaining is going on. Like we have I don't know, I mean, but my impression is we have a really good relationship with the Debian people. I certainly have.
Yeah, I think we had 10 years to fine tune the processes and tools and everything. So
right.
It's also the same with a lot of other projects, and it's a lot about the timing of the individual releases, where you can say, now we're going to update this component, but the other one, they have like crazy changes. We can't have them because we have an LTS to release. So that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And I mean, also, like, Debian and Ubuntu are different personalities in some way. I mean, and some changes, some defaults we picked are very appropriate for our kind of personality as a distribution, but are probably totally wrong for Debian and for the Debian user base. So I mean, we are different. That's fine.
Makes sense.
Do we have any other questions from the audience?
There were a bunch of other questions which weren't quite related to what Michael was doing.
We can do those after.
Yeah, let's do that. Do you have any more questions for Michael?
I personally don't.
Okay. How's the rest of the family?
Everybody's doing fine here. Everybody's very supportive. Like, they make tea for me so that I overcome my jet lag quicker. And
not bad.
Yeah, well trained.
Brilliant.
So, do you take your own tea with you to when you travel to America, or do you put up with the tea that is provided over there?
I usually take my own tea with me, but I'm a bit of a tea addict, crazy person. But I see, the trouble is just getting water with the right temperature is already difficult enough in a hotel. So it's not enough to have your own tea. Like if you do it properly, you would even have to have your own kettle, I guess. But yeah, I guess.
And a 240 volt supply as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it gets difficult.
And the water in Fahrenheit is just not the same.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Okay.
All right then. Yeah, thanks a lot, Michael. It was
Thanks
great
for
to have
having
you.
me. Yeah, thanks for having me, and enjoy.
Yeah,
thanks, Mike.
say hi to the rest of the gang.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Brilliant. Love the guy.
He's great fun, isn't he? So should we change gears a little bit, and do you want to cover some of the things that we talked about at the sprint, or have you got any other announcements you want to cover before we move on to the questions?
Sure. Yeah, one announcement, really important. From the 12th to the 14th of November, we're going to have another online summit. Do you have any sessions lined up for online summit already?
Not yet, but I have a big to-do list of things that I need to schedule. So, for example, for each of the core apps that the community are working on, we plan to have sessions for each of those, planning sessions for the next few months to figure out what we're going to work on, because we haven't done that planning yet. We've done none of that. So at the moment we're currently finishing off work that we'd been planning some months back, and fixing bugs and working on design updates and so on. So a big thing for me will be the planning for core apps over the coming months, and a big part of that, or a part of that, will be the convergence story. So getting all of the core apps working well on the desktop, which, you know, they work on the desktop, all of them work, but making them work well. You know, we don't want to just take a touch app and stick it on the desktop and say that's it, it's done. It's got to work well and integrate well with the desktop, and you know, work with a mouse and work with a keyboard, which, you know, you don't generally have on a touch device. So yeah, we've got a lot of stuff to do, and we have some ideas about what we want to cover, but I'd welcome more input at the online summit if people want to join in, and you know, people are particularly opinionated about a particular application, then, you know, you're welcome to join in, and we'll plan out what we're going to do over the next few months.
Excellent. Exactly. So we're going to have a lot of sessions there. We have the broad categories: app development, cloud DevOps, Ubuntu development, community, and that's the categories where we're going to, as Ellen said, plan the next few weeks, next few months. So if you have anything you would like to discuss, any ideas you want to bring up, or where you want to form a small team around an idea, that's the perfect place. It's all going to happen on Google Hangouts, where we can discuss the ideas, note down work items for everyone, and plan the work. We're also going to have a track called Users Track, where we're going to have demos and presentations. So if you have anything you want to show off, crazy plans you want to present, bring them. If you go to wiki.ubuntu.com/uds/create, you're going to find out how to schedule sessions, and yeah, we're going to have loads and loads of good stuff. Our team is probably going to be very busy with app development and community, so it will be great to have you there. What did you do at the sprint? Apart from cooking food?
I can give you a summary of what we did at the sprint. So if I can find my document, there we go. So for those of you who don't know, for the last week we were in Washington, D.C. It's about 220 canonical people flew out to Washington, or drove to Washington, and we also invited 10 community people along. And you know, we have a history of inviting community people along to events, and this is the second where we've invited the core app developers along. So we invited a whole bunch of them, some who've worked on core apps for the last year or so, and a few who've only just started. So it was a good mix of people who've been working on this for a while, and new faces as well, which was really good to see. And you know, in general, they were all heads down, working hard on fixing bugs in core apps, but also their own apps as well. So we had a couple of people there who were working on their own apps, which are in the store, so they're not necessarily pre-installed on the device, but they're still valuable apps that we wanted people to continue working on. And they were like implementing features, doing design changes, and then in the interim, they'd come up for air by joining in some of the sessions. So we had sessions all week. The calendar was absolutely packed with sessions discussing all kinds of things, from design, desktop, mobile, everything was discussed there. So a lot of them were involved in those sessions and giving feedback to canonical people about what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, how we can improve things, and so on. One of the main things that one of the main components that the core app developers use is the SDK, of course. So that includes our Qt Creator based software development kit and all the tools that go around that. And so a lot of them were providing good feedback to Zoltan and Benjamin, who work very closely on those tools, and so that's good because we create our SDK, but we need feedback from people who actually use it to let us know if it's broken in some way, or if it's hard to use, or features are difficult to find, or whatever feedback we can get. And so they participated in a good session with the SDK guys. That was good. We also participated in a session with the product managers, the people who are managing the phone delivery. So you've heard us talk time and time again about the upcoming phones that will be coming out from BQ and Meizu, and then in the future others. And the product managers have a very close relationship with those partners, and they know what the partners want. And so we look to get feedback from them to find out if they're happy with the applications that we're developing, that the community are developing, and if there's any particular features they want, or if there's any features they want to drop, or any changes they want to make. And so we had a good feedback session there as well. And the really positive thing was the feedback was, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job, and they're really enjoying seeing these community maintained applications. So that was really, really good to see. We had I won't go through absolutely all of what we did last week, but I'll mention some of the highlights for me. We got a new design for the weather app, which is currently in progress. It's not finished yet, but that's going to be worked on very soon. We had a great session about the calendar app. So we've developed a calendar app for the phone, which is worked on by Mihir and Kunal mostly. A bunch of other community people also contribute as well, but they came along to the sprint. And we had a lengthy session with design where we had the calendar up on a projector, and we were basically critiquing every single part of the user interface and doing whatever we can to improve the user experience. And those changes are being worked on right now, and those things will land incrementally over the coming days and weeks. And Kunal and Mihir are working very hard on that, and they've got lots of work items. I know Mihir was typing furiously during the session, making notes on everything that the design team were coming up with, so that they could track everything and make sure that we get all those improvements done. Another design-related thing, the calculator app is getting a redesign as well, and it's going to be redesigned and lots of new features added to it. So there's quite a bit of work there, and I'd ask if anyone in the community is keen on contributing to the calculator app, then get in touch with myself, and I'll point you in the right direction, because while we have developers working on it, they're also working on other things as well, and everyone has a limited amount of free time to work on these kind of hobby things. So for the calculator in particular, if anyone would be fancies getting involved in the calculator redesign, I'd really welcome that. The music app guys, Andrew and Victor, who work mostly on very closely on the music app, they were working through some of the new designs that they got from the design team. In fact, I can show you this. Actually, if I share my desktop, this is going to be scary. Hope this works. Press this button and share my entire desktop, and you'll get to see Daniel's face. There we go.
Hello.
So hopefully you can see this. Daniel, can you see what I've got on my screen? So on the left, this is the music app from like 2 weeks ago, and this is the music app. On the right-hand side is the music app as of right now. And what we've done is we've created a separate app, which is called Music App Remix. It's built upon the existing code base, but it's not in the store yet. We're building a click package and we're testing that, and only once we've done lots of testing will it replace the existing music app in the store. If anyone would like to test it, do ping me, and I'll give you a link to where you can get the click package, and which we update regularly, and you could try that out on your device. But it's not finished yet, so it might, I don't know, kill your kitten or delete your music or something. So just let me know if you want to try it, because the more people we get testing this kind of app, the better. So yeah, the music app's undergone a bit of a a redesign. We've got this new card layout. It's prettier, a lot prettier, and the guys have been working on performance improvements as well. So, for example, if I go to, I don't know, this Led Zeppelin album, you'll see the difference there is quite striking. You know, things like the buttons are easier to press, or easier to identify. It's more consistent. You know, it's still a work in progress, but it's certainly a lot better than it was, and that's hopefully going to be finished very soon.
Looks fantastic.
So I just wanted to briefly show you that, because I know the guys have been working very hard on that, and you know, late into the night during the sprint, and also, you know, last night I was watching on IRC and watching merge requests coming in from Andrew and Victor, so they're both working very, very hard on that. One other thing that was discussed and we built plans for was sharing data between applications and scopes. So, for example, we have a music application, and that knows some data about, for example, the tracks that you've played, and you know, your favorite tracks and your playlists and that kind of stuff. But we also have a music scope, but the scope doesn't know about that data, because these are two effectively separate applications. And so we had an interesting discussion at the sprint about how we bring the data from scopes and apps together, so for example, the music app where you're playing your tracks, the information about the tracks you play most often could be surfaced in a scope. So it's much easier for you to get to that information, much quicker for you to get to that information. Similarly, the Reminders app, which is a note-taking app powered by Evernote that we use, we have a Reminders app and a Reminders scope, and we want to be able to, you know, share data between those two. And in fact, the Reminders app will be the first app to implement this data sharing between apps and scopes. So yeah, it was a super productive week. I think I've babbled on enough about that, I think.
No, it was. And what you said, I experienced the same thing. For me, sprints are mostly the time where people can't get away from you. So I usually have a long list of people I want to talk to, and you can very easily get somebody from design, get somebody who's working on an app, somebody who, you know, wrote the APIs for it, get them all into a room and then just look, are we still on track? Does this still make sense?
Yeah.
And it's
that happened a lot this sprint. I had a load of occasions where, you know, one of the core app developers would say, who's responsible for this component? And I'd tell them the name of the person, and then ping that person on IRC and say, where are you? And they'd tell me what room I'm in, and I'd go, right, let's go and find them. And then we go and, you know, drag a developer to another developer, introduce them to each other, and then, you know, a conversation happens and the problem is solved straight away. You know, there's so much of that goes on. It's one, the blessing of us working all remotely is also a bit of a curse, because, you know, we're all remote, and you know, when you're sat next to someone, you can be instantly 10 times more productive if you can, you know, work on things with someone. And there was a whole lot of that going on. And it's also building relationships between, you know, the people who are working on the apps and the people who are working on the SDK, and the designers and the foundation people and management, product managers and everything. You know, when you get together both during the day while you're working, but also in the evening, you know, having a beer in the bar, or, you know, going to a museum together, or going out for a restaurant meal, or whatever it is, there's so much more collaboration when, you know, you get together and socialize as well as working together. It's brilliant. Love it. Don't love the jet lag, but love the event.
Yeah, same here. No, it was brilliant, and it was. For me, it was much less about planning and deciding on upcoming work items, but it was more about checking where we currently stand. As we mentioned earlier, there was the Utopic release last week. That was something people worked on, and there's also the upcoming phone release. So there was a lot of debugging and working in the rooms going on, which was really nice. So for example, I had this problem with my phone. I had the proposed image, I had the newest experimental packages installed, and when something exploded, I could run to the maintainer and they would say, no, that's somebody else's problem. So we dragged them into the conversation and they figured out the problem. And that's just really, really nice. Also, I worked on development, training materials last cycle quite a bit. So it was really nice to be able to talk to the people who are going to support Meizu in China, because they could tell me, okay, we looked at the materials, but this is what we need to fix. We need more examples for this. This needs to be changed. When are we going to translate this? How can we put this on the site? So that's just really nice to be able to talk in the same room and figure this out. And most of the real planning we're going to do, that's going to happen in 2 weeks at the online summit. And until then, I hope I'm going to make more sense again and be a little bit less jet lagged. Right. Did we have any other announcements, or should we dive head first into the questions queue?
I don't think I had anything else. No.
No. Okay. So keep your questions coming. I'll just go quickly back to the beginning of the log and see what we didn't answer before. Okay, here's a question from Who Me. SLED/12 were released. That's the SUSE enterprise thing. Can't remember what the abbreviation was for. Were released and they can boot from Btrf. As snapshots, chances are that OpenSUSE 13.2 is going to have this feature too. Are you guys interested in implementing this type of functionality in future Ubuntu releases?
Yeah, we talk about Btrfs every release, and you know the wonderful features that Btrfs has. And I came back from America and had to run a Btrfs check on my home server because it all went horribly wrong. So you know, I'm one of those people who likes Btrfs and uses it a lot. I don't think we're ready to use it yet. You know, maybe by the next LTS, maybe that might be something, and probably if we're going to, then we'd implement that before then. But I'm kind of surprised that some distros are so heavily promoting Btrfs, given you know how arguably unstable it is and how there hasn't been a stable release yet. Don't take that as criticism. I love it and I use it all the time. But I know we are evaluating Btrfs internally. I know some of our engineers are looking at it, but I don't know if that means we will use it or we haven't committed anything at all yet.
Yeah, I would suggest you have a look at, in a few days, have a look at summit.ubuntu.com, because that's where the schedule for the online summit is going to be. And maybe there's going to be some sessions about file systems and what the plans are there. Right. Question about Click. Oh, here's another one about Click I missed earlier. Just Caracas asked, will Unity 8 be able to handle debs? Because if it runs on the desktop and a site doesn't provide a Click, we kind of have a problem if there is no way around that. Yeah, Michael answered this, sort of. He said Unity doesn't care whether an app is installed via Click or deb. That's correct. But in the future, it would surprise me if people who are already packaging things as deb packages wouldn't instantly look at Click packages and love what they see, because it's just so much easier to distribute your software. The day we have that, I think almost all our problems are solved, basically. Right, next question. Who me asked, the latest user survey on OMG Ubuntu shows that 50% of people that responded wanted newer drivers and general better support for gaming. Is there anything being done in this area? Personally, I don't know. We have people who are looking at drivers and also looking at the proprietary drivers, and we also have automated testing where machines using these cards are being tested if things still work. if there's any specific work to make Ubuntu or Linux in general better for gaming. I could imagine that more of this is happening upstream, so upstream in the kernel and upstream in the drivers, because it just makes so much more sense there. Do you have anything you would add?
No, I think it's one of those vague, hand-wavy, make games better on Linux thing that when you look at the specifics, it's basically, make sure input works well, make sure there's no screen tearing, make sure there's, the video drivers are up to date and all that kind of stuff. And, gamers are the kinds of people who like to have the bleeding edge latest video driver. So, if 10 minutes after NVIDIA put a driver on their website, if it's not in the Ubuntu repository, they're complaining that Ubuntu is terrible for not having an up-to-date driver. We get that kind of feedback a fair amount, and it's a resource thing. I'm sure if we had the resources to constantly update these drivers, we certainly would. I know we do update the drivers fairly regularly, and I know there are people who do that, but it's something that anyone could contribute to. You can get hold of the driver from NVIDIA or AMD or whatever and package it up and update it. That's not it's not a task that has to be done by a certain individual. That's something that the community could certainly help with.
Yeah, I could imagine that having very specific bug reports for things that just don't work with a given graphics card or in a given game, or if we have that, then it will be easier to write test cases or ask the company or the driver maintainers to add a test case for a given problem, so we can make sure that the bug is never going to sneak back in again. I can imagine that's more specific than improved gaming, which is, as you said, is a bit vague.
I know we used to have one of the test cases for Unity and Compiz releases was to run, I think we ran a subset of the Phoronix test suite, which runs a certain game. I can't remember which game it is, but runs a game at full tilt and checks that the frames per second hasn't dropped, and amongst other tests that we do, that was a valuable thing to do. But actually, the benchmarking stuff other people tend to do already. We're made painfully aware when Michael Larabelle, posts on Phoronix about how we're 1 frame a second lower than we were, 6 months ago. I think we could do with more contribution in this area, but I'm not sure exactly what we could do.
Yeah. What's your favorite game?
Open Spades.
Open Spades. So maybe it would make sense to send a merge proposal saying replacing the game they're currently using with your game to make sure that
as long as it works well for me. I don't care what anyone else's experience is like. As long as it works for me, everyone else.
There you go. Brilliant. Oh, we have a really nice comment here from somebody called Farmer. They say in Ukraine, the biggest bank, Privatbank, is using Ubuntu in all work machines. That's fantastic news.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, nice. Right, next question. System D, yes, we answered that one. Okay, another question from Just Caracas. Won't not using dependencies result is multiple click packages containing the same frameworks to work around that?
Yep.
Actually,
the short answer is yes. So, for example, if you have an application that needs some library or binary, then if that's not provided by the system, you will have to ship it in your click package. So if that means you want some bleeding edge version of Python or some other 3D library or something like that, SDL bleeding edge or something, you need to ship that in your click package. Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we currently have that. Like, we at least have one app in the store which is shipping its own Java, and I think the course of action for app developers could be like if we find out that there's more and more apps shipping Java, maybe at some stage it's going to make sense to invent this new Java framework and ship that in a separate
Right.
click package. But I think until we have more demand for that, we probably would need a discussion about this first. So if you're
Yeah,
interested in that, bring
we
it up.
certainly monitor that kind of thing, don't we? You know,
Yeah.
so we know which app uses Java, and we know which apps use other libraries. So maybe there's some kind of deduplication work on the file system that needs to be done, or some other system level thing that's not been thought of yet. But we do keep an eye on those things.
Right. Another question from Just Caracas. That person is on fire. Absolutely. Are there plans for more tutorials for starters? I usually make HTML5 apps but want to try QML, but I got a bit discouraged because of lack of starters info. Yes, we're working on it. What you can do is find a bug on the Ubuntu developer site, developer.ubuntu.com. There's a big button at the bottom of each page where you can find a bug. So asking for a new tutorial is going to make a lot of sense. We also had a quick discussion, although we didn't come to a conclusion there. We had this quick discussion at the sprint. Somebody suggested we should probably add like a snippet site or something where people can contribute code examples. We sort of have something like this in the site already. I think it's called the cookbook, where people contributed snippets through Ask Ubuntu. You might want to have a look there. There's a lot of really good examples where people voted up the really good explanations and everything. That could be a good source, but I would agree that it would be nice to have something more formal. I should probably register a session for Online Summit next week, so maybe you can join that one as well.
Yeah, I'll join in that one as well, because I've been looking at other SDKs and tools, not just on Ubuntu but on Windows as well, and looking at what their developer onboarding experience is like, and seeing how we compare and seeing if there's any way we can improve. Had a discussion with David last week, so I'll certainly bring that up when we have an online session at the Online Summit.
Brilliant. Just noted it down to register a session later on. A question by C. Smith. Are there any plans to include Mate 1.9 or Mate 1.9 in the main repos currently?
So what's in the current? What's in? It's 1.8.2 at the moment, I think. 1.8.1, I think. So so only recently Mate was added to the Utopic archive, and as part of that, Martin Wimpress has been working on the Ubuntu Mate remix, which is a spin of Ubuntu that has Mate as the default desktop. And it's beautiful and it's lovely, and lots of people are downloading it and reviewing it and giving it lots of positive praise. So Martin's done a really good job with that. I think probably what will happen is in the 1504 cycle, probably the next version of Mate will go into that archive, and then probably will be backported to Utopic and maybe Trusty via PPAs. And I know Martin works a lot on PPA support for Mate. So if you're interested in that, or you're interested in helping out or testing, then there's an IRC channel for that, which is #Ubuntu-Mate. Good place to hang out.
Excellent. Yeah, a lot of development is already happening in PPAs, so yeah, makes sense. Brilliant. MAUR asked, AIK Char asked, it's not a question, but congratulations to all Ubuntu contributors to yet another awesome release. Thank you all.
Woohoo!
That's one. Yeah. Question by Akiva ThinkPad. How is the keyboard layouts handled in Mir?
I have no idea, but I know the person you need to speak to ask that question, and that's Mike Sheldon. He works on the keyboard side of things, and you'll find him on IRC as Elio, E-L-L-E-O. Yeah, he looks after Ubuntu keyboard for us.
Excellent. Another question by Akiva. How do I fork a file manager app if the file manager has been given special privileges?
So what Akiva's asking there is there are a couple of applications that have special privileges in the store, and that's the file manager and the terminal, and they are what's called unconfined. So MVO earlier talked about the fact that Click allows us to confine applications so that one application can't stomp on another's data and you can't access data from another application. There are two exceptions to that, the terminal and the file manager. They don't ship by default, but they are in the store. And there is actually an added security step for both of those applications. One, that they both ask you for a passcode when you open them if you want to do anything dangerous. So the file manager and terminal are both, by their nature, potentially dangerous applications. So we've added a little security, extra security on them when they're in the store as unconfined. Now you can fork the file manager because obviously it's free software, and you can fork that and make your own file manager application. However, if you upload it to the store as an unconfined application, it will be rejected because we don't allow third parties to have unconfined apps in the store because it's potentially dangerous. So while you could make a fork of it, you would have to make it a confined application or come up with some other way of submitting it to the store where it's not unconfined. If you have any further questions about that, then feel free to carry on the conversation on IRC with me or the people who deal with the security side of things, which is Jamie Strand.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Wow, look, we ran out of time.
Yeah, and I think that's all the questions we had.
Excellent. Thank you, Daniel. That was awesome.
Thank you, Alan. I think next week it will depend if Nick is already done with his move. It's probably going to be Nick and Mike. Let's see. There's going to be somebody next week. So have a great week. See you soon again.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.